Hi, this is Joanna with The Rooted Belly, a place where we share recipes that are rooted in a whole food, plant-based way of eating. So today we're going to make a creamy asparagus soup. We're making asparagus soup because there's a ton of asparagus right now. It's springtime and the weather even changed over. It's actually not snowing anymore, which is great. So what's going to be in this recipe? Well, I have everything prepped over here, but we'll walk through it real quick. You're going to start with about 4 to 5 cups of mushrooms. It can be a mixed bunch of mushrooms, white caps, shiitake, portobello. If you use portobello, just make sure to scrape out the gills underneath the mushroom because it can make the sauce a little darker than you may want. We're also going to add some diced carrots, about 1 to 2 of those, a poblano pepper, just slice into that and get the seeds out of that, a yellow onion, and then a nice 1 to 2 inch chunk of ginger that's been nice and minced up here, 2 tablespoons of garlic, and we're going to finish it off with some cilantro after we've added, of course, coconut milk and some vegetable broth. So let's get the mushrooms into the pan, because what we're going to do is we're going to want to get the water out of those mushrooms. So I have my pan, it's really hot. Add that in. We're not going to use any oil. You can put 1 to 2 teaspoons of oil in there, but I'm just trying to cut down on that. So at the beginning, if your pan gets a little too hot, just have some water available to add that in. So we're going to let that go for probably about 8 to 10 minutes and watch that moisture cook off. Okay, so we have the moisture level right where we want it. We got to get the ginger and the garlic in there and then mix it all together. Again, this is about 1 to 2 inch chunk of ginger that's been minced, and then about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic or jarred, depending on your time. You'll also start to see that there's some nice browning bits in the bottom of the pan, which is going to add some great flavor. If it starts to get away from you, if your pan looks like it's starting to scorch, just add a little bit of liquid. Kind of ironic because we just waited for all that liquid to cook off. But you want to work with your pan to keep it in check. And you can always turn the heat down too. Okay, so let that saute for another 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, it's time to add our diced poblano peppers, our yellow onion and carrots, getting that in the pan. Always goes so quickly when everything's prepped. So you're going to let that cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. You're really just letting all those flavors come together. They're really going to finish cooking once you put the broth in. Okay, time to almost finish it off. We're going to add our asparagus last because it's the most tender. We're going to put in about 32 ounces of vegetable broth, or if you've made your own homemade broth, and 1 can of coconut milk. So let's get the asparagus and the broth in there and the coconut milk. Grab my coconut milk. I'm using a full fat coconut milk. If you'd prefer to use a reduced fat, you're obviously welcome to do so, but the full fat really adds a nice mouthfeel to the end of the soup. Just stir all this together, and you're going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes. Just check the asparagus for the tenderness. Okay, so we're all set. Our soup is done. Everything's nice and cooked. Normally, I'll just top it off with a little salt if I need it. If you don't need salt, good for you. But I always just do a little finishing salt right on top. Mainly because when it's on top, that's what hits your taste buds first, so it actually perceives saltier than it really is and you don't use as much. And you can even just squeeze a little fresh lime juice on top if you wanted. Again, that acid just brings out all the flavors. And you're good to go. You can find this recipe and all recipes at therootedbelly.com. And thanks for joining. I'm going to dig in.